Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Mikeworth, your favorite financial friend. Today, we are actually doing something, a different kind of prosperity education. We're really going to talk about the journaling out of trauma. And it is one of the largest prosperity blockers that we see. So we're going to go through some pieces on this lesson. We'll be together for about 20-25 minutes. I always have to put the disclaimer up. Even though I might sound like a doctor, I'm not. So remember, if you need medical advice, always take it. But today we're going to talk about something that's actually kind of fun and one of my favorite pieces. This is a class that was originally created for parents in community action because we had so many people that were in constant trauma. And so the first place that I go with trauma as a conversation is to remind people there's a difference between traumatic events and trauma. So the traumatic event will never change that happened. That is something that happened. If you have a traumatic event in your life, it's there. But the trauma is what we're holding on to. And that is what is actually eligible to be let go of. And that is what we're really having about. We're talking also about this because stress reduction, trauma recovery, these are critical for people who want to get moving in a prosperity mindset, that they want to get rid of unhealthy habits, or that they constantly are walking into emotional traps. So we're talking about it because we want to think about being able to find more meaning in your life. And it works. I'm a huge journaling fan, so it's not that I'm a fan, I'm a super fan, because I love journaling and I use it every day. And I have journaled now for over 45 years. So it's been amazing for me. And as somebody who leads people through lots and lots of really important and just hard stuff, I have to use a journal to be able to have an internal conversation with myself. And that, I think, is where you will find the benefit, is to be able to discharge. You kind of need a way to just start moving your path forward. So even if your trauma happened many years ago, the thing that I have found from 24 years of doing this is that there are always steps you can take. You can always learn to trust another person. You can always try to get a little more balance in your life. And the beautiful part of today's topic is that you can start out really quietly with just a pen and paper. We have this class. This was originally created for parents in community action. So we talk about the kid part because that is Head Start program. And how do kids take this on? We're not going to be addressing the child aspect of this today, but it is for them often done as dramatic play. We do want to talk about the fact that many of you have addiction in your families, that you may have a brother, a sister, a mother, a daughter, maybe you, but 70% of addiction has been quoted as being trauma-based. So all of the things that we're going to talk about today is sometimes the root of it. I mean, that when you kind of go, why do I kind of feel crummy? Or, I just feel agitated, or sometimes we just feel all tense and bottled up. That's where a journal is really helpful. And I really am going to encourage you to take that 15 minutes. So mindful isolation is what is the lesson. That mindful isolation is going away for even 15 minutes and just taking a breath and focusing in on what we call the fundamental truths about the world, right? And when I say a fundamental truth, I mean asking yourself a question like, why is this bugging me? And waiting for yourself to have an answer. Fundamental truths are really what a journal is for. It's a way for you to sort and strengthen your own ideas. It's also a way to to recast the idea that sometimes when I say to people, well, what if you were the hero of your story? How would I write the story then? Kind of changes it. And it allows yourself a space not only to be more creative, but it also gives you some real psychological upgrades and some spiritual upgrades. And it just is, as a practice behavior, a place where you can have a conversation with yourself. Now, we have, I wrote this very specifically because it is a way that we can kind of all agree on trauma, because stress is often, for most people, miscategorized as stress, and it's really trauma. So when we look at traumatic experiences, there are lots of different kinds, and we're not here to judge whether or not yours is super important, super big, or super little. It doesn't matter how someone from the outside views it. It is how you internalized it. So the more frightened and helpless you feel, the more likely that you are traumatized. So if we just look at situations related to stress, when somebody's feeling overwhelmed and isolated, or they're feeling really helpless, they are going to be traumatized. So even if it doesn't have physical harm. So when we're looking at traumatic, it is a subjective emotional experience. So something that may traumatize you doesn't traumatize the person next to you. So think about trauma differently. If I were going to screenshot anything, this is it. It is to really look at this traumatic experience conversation. When people don't talk about or can't, there's so many people that can't talk about their feelings. So this is another tool for you to be able to just have some mindful isolation, get in there with your journal, get out of the pace of everybody else talking to you, and just get to a place where you can be alone with your emotions, with your memories, or with anxiety, and just ask it some questions. Just be with it and not have to try to relive the struggle of those things. So the next step that we're going to talk about again is, right, the difference between traumatic events and trauma. Trauma is eligible to be let go. And we have daily trauma that, when I look at this list on the left, relationships, money, situations, toxic people, health issues, shame, blame, imposter syndrome, stressful work, unhealthy environments, anger, powerlessness, undirected, depression, addiction, not enough time, not enough resources, and loneliness. Man, that's a list I just picked up out of the top of my head. So most people have some of this in their life every day. And that's the stuff that's eligible to be released. You don't have to keep it. You don't have to keep it. And so many people are feeling anxiety around time. When it becomes trauma is when it is out of their control. They're feeling overwhelmed. They feel like they're kind of cornered in there, right? So let's go back to what was, right, the conversation. Maybe they felt isolated. Maybe they felt overwhelmed. Maybe, right, the circumstances or the event were subjective emotional experiences that made somebody feel trauma. So when you're thinking about it, I want you to open up your feelings around anxiety and time and what that is. And this is actually, the future still only comes one day at a time. It's kind of that piece where everybody can start right now. What I like about journaling is it's something you can start right now. You can find access to a pen and paper quickly. And so there's a lot of different journal styles. I have a lot of different journals that I use and a lot of different pieces. I think it will be interesting to see if you could start putting 15 minutes into your day, because it is a place for you to consistently and persistently work on having more of a practice, and that practice is around being expressive in your writing. And when we write down about like, hey, my day today was this, or I didn't understand, or I'm going to even ask myself a question, right? It improves the cognitive function, right? That's how your brain thinks. But it also helps strengthen your immune system. So think of it like an exercise for your well-being. Not just, oh, I should do this task. I don't know how to journal, or I don't know what's going on in your mind. I'm a journal lover, so it's easy for me to go on. But when you are looking at journaling, I really want to encourage you to also look at drawing, because some of you are visual learners. So just start drawing it out. What are you seeing? What is going on in your mind? And so it can be in words, it can be in images. And what you're looking for as an outcome is the ability to find meaning in and have positive change in your life. So you're looking as an outcome to find meaning in some of the things that may have been bothering you, or to find meaning in things that happened in the past, and try to make a life change. And journaling has the unique tool of changing the narrative in your head. So a lot of times we have a narrative rolling around in our head. It's repeating the same garbage. And this is where you can help process it by just putting it into a different format and writing down that needs information, right? So when we look at processing, what I'm saying is processing needs information. So what that means is that we need to give it information to be able to do that. That's called asking a question. So processing needs information. Why do I feel so crummy? Well, now I can start to process because I have information, right? If I'm just feeling crummy, I'm just denoting, I feel crummy. There's no information there. That's just a statement. I feel crummy. Whereas if I start to ask a question, why do I feel crummy? What is my trigger when I feel crummy? This is where we start getting information. And this is where we get to be able to start experiencing and incorporating some of the new narrative. Why am I feeling crummy? And then asking that question a question. So I'm feeling crummy because I maybe want something different with my day. Okay, well, why does that make me feel crummy, right? And you start kind of digging in the thing, under the thing, under the thing. And you can do it alone with your own journal, with your own time, and just look at how to kind of release, recover, and reward. So we're looking to understand your world differently, right? We're looking to release some of the things that maybe we thought about something. We're looking to recover our own self, our own desires to be connected to the world, and then we want to reward it. So we want to reward what is the outcome. So what that means is you should notice that you feel better. Wow, that was great. And sometimes I even pat my journal on I keep mine with me, and yours can look much different than mine, but I will frequently pat my journal and go, I'll see you next time. So there are lots of fun ways that you can be with your journal. Whatever you're doing with that journal, I think the parts that I love the most are when you can start creating a conversation with yourself. And I use a lot of tools in a journal. I have many different kinds of journals. I have some journals that are very much, kind of a Michael's purchase that I stuff other things into. So sometimes I have to be careful when I open my journal. Some people use stickers in them and put other memorabilia in their journals. Doesn't matter. Some people are using, which is my new one, which is just these 3x5 cards. And this is actually really helpful to get a small idea down. But you're there, that's what you're trying to do, is just somehow have a conversation with yourself. So sometimes I will look at something called dot journaling. That's another topic you can put in online to kind of go, what is the dot journal that I'm hoping for? You can have outcome journals. Sometimes there are a lot of books out there these days that have kind of like one question that they're going to ask you in a day. And oh, it won't pick it up on here, but so it'll ask a question and give you kind of a devotional. And those are very helpful. That's the same thing as a writing prompt. They're just giving you a writing prompt. They're giving you a prompt that they've already written on. So then you would write from that point forward. Outcome journals are really helpful to people who are working through trauma because they often feel as though they are set back. So just coming up with an outcome journal, which is like maybe a workout journal or a food journal or something like that. Gratitude journals, boy, do those have an enormous amount of great science on them of just reaching cognitively to a happy thought first will really improve your overall feeling in general. Feeling discovery is another type of journal that is often used where we just go to a feeling and then we just write that feeling and we discover everything we can about that. Some people have special pens that they like with that. If that's going to help you have a better conversation with yourself, that's great. We do a lot of prosperity lessons, so that's something that we do. And then pattern recognition. One of the things about pattern recognition is really the idea of connecting the physical and the emotional. So it's saying, hey, when I think these thoughts, this is physically what happens to me. And or that I am physically feeling this thing, let me connect back to what are the upsetting thoughts that are connected to that feeling. So this is actually a very interesting tool. If I were going to screenshot a page, I would have screenshotted this page and I would have shot this page of just looking at how you're going to connect the emotional to the physical. Gratitude journals, they're there to work on changing the physical response connection in the brain. They are often given to people as a request from their docs because they want people to try the cognitive training. They have to retrain their brain. Instead of always going to doom and gloom, they have to go to something happy. And they have to do that every day. So a gratitude journal is often an assignment. The other thing in your journal as a topic of like something that you can do to help open up the conversation to yourself is to retell your traumatic event as a story with you as the hero. And you can also retell any part of the story with you as the hero. But you're looking to try to put in, as a good storyteller would, the images, the things, the timing. A great storyteller is there. And the reason that we're doing it as a hero piece is because it's so critical to your self-esteem and to discovery. Children need a hero. They will make themselves a hero. When you look at them at certain times, they will automatically be the superstar. A child that hasn't had a lot of trauma will see themselves as a hero in their life. And when we look at that hero life, it's important for us to have heroes, and it's important for us to see ourselves as capable of that role. So I like that assignment a lot. The one sentence ask, I do a lot of just asking myself a question, and I love what comes out because I never know. I never know what's going to come out. This one we do a lot in the community, which is where I have you write a letter to yourself as that person. If you had a specific traumatic event, you actually write yourself as a little person a letter, or whenever that traumatic event was, you write it back as if you're writing a letter to yourself at that time. Those ones usually take a little bit longer than 15 minutes because there's a lot to be seen in that. What I also like about the one question ask is it's just being able to take kind of a raw moment. And this is a great place to process anger. When you think you're going to feel raw and you want to write about that, you really want to ask yourself a question of like, What do I never need to do again? And just really get at that raw emotion and smack it out on that page, and make sure you're asking it, right, with that intention of, this is what I want on the outside. I want to be able to walk away, right, with a way to reframe it. You're looking for, how can I reframe this anger? How can I look at this very differently? And that's the point of it. In those fast pages, those one question asks, this is again, right, what are you speaking positively about? Who are you saying nice things about? When do you say nice things? This is kind of like gratitude, but it's a little bit different. So I do like this one about what do I say positively about people, and figuring out why you do. Another one that I love is this one, right? What makes me feel loved and cared for? And this is a tool in self-healing, in trauma, is to be able to recognize what types of affection you will allow. Allow from others, allow from yourself. And it gives the subconscious brain a conscious cue of how it can help you feel better. So what makes me feel loved and cared for? It might be a hug. It might be someone saying good morning. It might be someone noticing or asking a question. It may be having a bath in the night, maybe having a bath, maybe just having time. So when you start to look at what makes you feel loved and cared for, I think it's a real positive question. I deal in finances all the time. So I'm always looking for what resources that I have in place right now. What are the resources I have in place right now? And I think that's a really good one for everyone, is to go, here are the resources I have. I have money in the bank, or I have money in my bag. I have a job, I have this. You may have none of those, but you may have some other things. So find the things that you have as resources right now. They may be people, they could be places. I would think about where they are. So that is my fast review. So we want you to hang out with us as often as possible. So thank you so much, and we will see you in class a different day.